I'm Nazarian, and this is my sister Tallene, and this is going to be my final interview submission for Ethnic Studies 350.
Okay, so what do you think were the main motivations behind the creation of this software, and what would you argue mainly inspired the founder, Armenian?
Well, as an Armenian with several relatives who only speak Armenian, I feel that HyGPT could absolutely help with accessibility of academic work and research online. I know ChatGPT and Google sometimes cannot be as accessible because there aren't Armenian articles available. And HyGPT could also have inspired the potential to alter several viewpoints regarding technology in Armenia. I know that half of the population does not have internet access, so this could absolutely help change some minds, have people get in touch with technological advancements that are developing. And perhaps Armenia will no longer be viewed as a developing country after this occurs and after it starts to develop a little more and become on par with other advanced countries. Although some people may be against this development, because I know several Armenians can be old-fashioned along with a lot of other ethnic minorities. And one reading that I feel connects to this is Post-Colonialism, Feminism, and Technoscience, particularly in the concept of sciences of empire. Considering that westernized technological innovations are considered the peak of STEM and technology in general, I know that several indigenous sciences are not included in this, and everyone kind of focuses on westernization. So Armenia is simply fitting into this pre-created category of westernization and having advancements developed throughout the globe.
Okay, question 2. What are the implications going forward, seeing as this is the first ever Armenian large language model, and do you think this will inspire more technological innovations?
Absolutely. I think that this also should be focused on inspiring technological innovations within serving Armenians within Armenia specifically, as I believe HyGPT definitely does. And it could even serve as inspiration for perhaps the Armenianization of other American technologies, not just ChatGPT, but maybe other platforms that only really serve English-speaking people. I also think it'll discipline Armenians to begin to think in this more westernized context, and will begin to value these technologies perhaps more than tradition or other old-fashioned concepts we have. And definitely having an Armenian large-scale language model it kind of resembles this care about helping one another and prioritizing one another in this community. And another similar concept I believe connects to this is how Operation Match was later developed into Match.com, and Armenians actually created a dating platform called Kyank, which is kind of an Armenianization of an American technology. And I also believe this connects to a film we studied in class called Chapter 2.5 Power, and how humans are constantly changing and evolving and are undoubtedly normalized to a very large extent, quote unquote, and that they are in this context as well because human creations, including ChatGPT, have been normalized as well as OpenAI, and this leads to the creation of HyGPT and most likely later technologies, which can be helped in Armenia.
Okay. What are some shortcomings you would like to see improved in HyGPT, such as its Eastern Armenian exclusivity being an area of improvement?
Well, I believe that as an Eastern-speaking Armenian, I know a lot of people in my category have believed that Eastern Armenian is better than Western Armenian or sounds more pure or similar to the original Armenian, and that this model could perhaps start to adhere to that dialect of Western Armenian. And I think that in having it simply be an Eastern Armenian, it kind of disciplines the people who use it to align with this ideology that Eastern Armenian is superior to Western Armenian, or that people should start only speaking Eastern Armenian even if you live in the Western region of Armenia. And that it kind of warps social identities to uphold this hierarchical ideology, and that no one dialect is better than the other. And categories of other dialects, such as Iran, Russia, etc., can be erased or proven to be inferior than those of pure Armenians from Armenia who consider themselves as the purest Armenian at times. And Western Armenians may subsequently not utilize or benefit from the creation of HyGPT as they can't really speak in it or read from it. I think a reading that connects to this is called Racial Fictions, and the idea that the facts alone will not save us, but also novel fictions, and this constant looking towards the future, and that we should observe how we can create an inclusive, viable features in future technologies for all members within an ethnic minority to benefit from in order to allow us to unite rather than divide each other apart.
Okay. So, seeing as Armenia is a developing nation, how do you think HyGPT will either improve or negatively impact the welfare of the Armenian people, or even on a more large-scale component?
Well, yeah, seeing as we don't live in Armenia, I don't live in Armenia myself, but we do have an uncle, we have relatives who do live in Armenia, I feel that they would absolutely benefit from the creation of HyGPT, as they'd be able to access any information they'd like at the simple click of a button, or downloading of this software that they might not usually have had with Google or ChatGPT. I do think it will shape the Armenian people to unfortunately become more dependent on technologies in a good way and a bad way, seeing as 77% of the Armenian population currently has internet access or just has access to the digital world. But I do think some Armenians may likely lose their autonomy or independence, critical thinking skills, creativity that they already have because they don't rely on technology as much at the moment. And I imagine some of the Armenians may be more old-fashioned and don't want to participate in this influx of technology within their nation specifically because they have lived the majority of their life without it and find that perhaps they just don't need it in the coming future, although I do believe that they do because our world just continues to become more technology reliant. And a film I believe connects to this is called Imagine Otherwise by Fire. I do believe that this could be detrimental for the Armenian population because they have suffered the consequences of digital divisions in the past and attacks from neighboring countries that utilize and benefit from these technologies. I know that Syrian mercenaries, neighboring countries such as Azerbaijan and Turkey have missiles and several technological warfare that they have used again as westernized technologies against Armenia itself.
Okay. So there's a surfacing argument that ChatGPT is extremely harmful, both environmentally and neurologically. Do you believe these same ramifications will affect the Armenian population upon HyGPT's proliferating usage?
Absolutely. I believe that it's simply human nature. Because it's affected so many people in America, it's absolutely going to affect people in Armenia. As in terms of myself, in an academic setting, I believe that all of my English professors have strongly discouraged the use of ChatGPT in our essay writing assignments because it doesn't allow us to critically think or become creative with our essays. And it could absolutely affect people within Armenian universities as well, especially because they begin to form dependence on this newly formed technology. The fresher it is, the more new it is, I feel like the more people will be attracted to it. And as environmental issues increase, I believe that low-income neighborhoods would specifically be affected upon the creation of HyGPT because of these data centers being created in order to have ChatGPT cool down. I think the same will happen with HyGPT. They will use a lot of water, a lot of waste, and it'll affect the environment. And upon researching this topic, I found that Armenian individuals are more interested in AI for smaller, mundane activities, but not on large-scale things. So I believe HyGPT could also take away jobs or decrease the job market and unemployment within Armenia. And I feel like some people may resist against this because they won't appreciate that. And to connect this to a film in class called Within a World of Plastic, I believe that as Americans, we have a tendency to supersede what we actually need because of what we want. This applies to food, plastic, anything. We tend to overproduce. And I think that the same thing could happen within Armenia because the water waste will just become so unnecessary that the environment will not become as healthy.
Okay. Many have presented substantial evidence supporting the claim that ChatGPT does not always serve accurate and correct answers. Do you worry that the same inaccuracy will occur in HyGPT?
Absolutely. It's happened to me. It's given fabricated information sometimes, sources that don't exist, and the same thing could happen with HyGPT. It might warp behaviors in Armenia to fuel this occasional misinformation and even erase the identities of professionals who actually analyze these topics and have correct information to spread. And perhaps it'll become prohibited in universities because we know ChatGPT is prohibited in some academic areas here as well. I know research through imperial eyes connects to this, especially in the concept of ideas about these things help determine what counts as real, because HyGPT could fabricate what we believe is reality and what Armenians believe is real, and as ChatGPT has done with us. So absolutely, I think it could have those ramifications.
Okay.